thought it'd be better if we were all together on a day like this. Don't you agree, dear?
He's just standing there, menacingly!
When it comes to Miraculous Ladybug characters, none such character has gotten worse treatment than Felix Graham de Vanily. You may know him as Adrien Agreste's cousin and Gabriel Agreste's nephew, but once upon a time he played a much larger role in the show. But what happened to Felix, and why was he reduced to a minor character? Well, that's why today we're going to be talking about Felix Graham de Vanily and his history with the series.
Aw, they look just like twins, don't they, Gabriel? Do you remember when they used to have so much fun pretending to be each other? Once they had you and Emily fooled for a whole weekend!
I won't be fooled a second time.
Felix was first introduced to the canonical Miraculous Ladybug Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir cartoon in the Season 3 episode Felix. Within the episode, it's revealed that he and Adrien used to be close when they were younger, and that they liked to play tricks on their parents by pretending to be each other. Though this is much to Gabriel's annoyance, since he can see right past the attempt to trick both him and Natalie. He proves to be harder to fool than Alia, Julika, and Rose, who end up falling for his tricks and become akumatized when he sends a nasty message to them while pretending that he's Adrien. Felix has become jaded and malicious due to the sudden and recent loss of his father. Similar to Adrien, the two now only have one parent, though in direct parallel to Adrien, Felix still has a caring mother. Gabriel, I think we can all agree, is less than caring and affectionate to his son, despite Adrien's clear desire for parental affection and approval. Felix and Adrien's situations mirroring each other is no mistake from a storytelling and literary perspective, considering what Felix's original role in the show was. I've talked about this very briefly in my introductory video to Miraculous Ladybug, but I wanted to make a video that covered the situation in more detail. Originally, Felix was the show's Cat Noir, and instead of being Felix Graham de Vanily, he was Felix Agreste. You can see him in the original 2D PV, which was released in 2013 as a teaser trailer for what the series was intended to look like before its transition into 3D. He was still the son of famous fashion designer Gabriel Agreste, but he was also a jaded rich boy model. This heavily contrasts the Adrien that we would get to know, who is a very caring and compassionate individual who lacks social skills. So, why was there such a drastic change in his character? It's normal for characters to have their name changed right before the finalized project is put into production, but it's rare for them to have undergone such massive personality alterations after their trailers have already been released. While overall his design stayed the same, the differences between Adrien and Felix's personalities are like night and day. The reason for that would later be stated by the show's creator, Thomas Ostruck. He stated that Felix needed to be replaced by Adrien because he wasn't a compatible love interest for Marinette. Their personalities clashed too much and their dynamic really just wasn't there because of that. Felix was a much darker character with darker motives than Adrien, and so they just wouldn't make a convincing couple when the chemistry just wasn't there. In addition, nobody on the team, including Ostruck himself, was convinced of their dynamic as heroes or lovers. Part of the reason Ladybug and Cat work so well together is because they're both empathetic and care about Paris and its inhabitants. Felix was much more apathetic, making his viewpoints contrast heavily with Ladybug's. Marinette also fell in love with Adrien because of his compassion and how he gave her his umbrella so that she wouldn't get soaked by the rain while walking home from school. And even though they had previously gotten into a fight upon meeting for the first time, Adrien was still looking out for her and her well-being. In the PV, it's shown that Felix seems both aware of and annoyed by Marinette's fawning. With Adrien, he's clueless of her affections for him. He just thinks that she's socially awkward, and he's unable to read and understand her very obvious social cues. However, he's still nice to her and goes out of his way to make her comfortable around him. Their dynamic makes much more sense than a Marinette fawning over an annoyed Felix.
Oh, Adrien, what is it with the girls? At least you don't have these kinds of troubles with cheese.
Stop pranking, Plag. I'm sure I did something to mess up our friendship by accident. I'm so clueless about these things.
When you're writing a love story, or a story where romance is one of the main components, it's incredibly important that your focal couple has a romantic chemistry. They just didn't have that chemistry or dynamic with Marinette and Felix, which is why one of them needed to be removed. Marinette was the main character, and Felix was the secondary protagonist, so it was a no-brainer on who was going to the chopping block. But as we see in this newest season, Felix wasn't entirely scrapped from the story. So what's the point of him existing from this point on if he isn't fulfilling his original purpose as Cat Noir? Well, in literary terms, there's something that we call a foil. In literature, a foil is a character that has characteristics that oppose another character, usually the protagonist. The foil character may be completely opposite to the protagonist or very similar with one key difference. The foil character is used to highlight some particular quality or qualities of the main character. In this case, Felix is a foil of Adrien. Where Adrien is obedient and caring, Felix is rebellious and manipulative. He rummages through Adrien's belongings and attempts to destroy his relationships with his friends in order to hurt him. In this episode, Felix highlights how empathetic and forgiving Adrien is because despite how nasty he was to his cousin, Adrien still forgives him. The point of this episode was to highlight that part of Adrien's personality and how he doesn't have a mean bone in his body. Beyond that, authors may use foil characters to show either the inner strengths or weaknesses of their protagonists. Foil characters may also make an opposite choice of the protagonist, which is a way for the author to explore what would have happened if the protagonist had gone down a different path. Because these two characters have identical situations, it's clear that Adrien could have ended up as Felix had he reacted differently to his mother's disappearance. The two even live in similar situations, being from wealthy families with influential parents. I mean, their mothers are even twins and have basically the same name for Pete's sake.
Listen, Plag. Felix lost his dad not so long ago. He's probably not himself.
I'm sorry, but there's just no excuse. You never touched my cheese, and yet you lost your mother not so long ago, right?
The term foil came into its current usage as a literary device from the concept of putting tin foil behind a gemstone to make it look more brilliant. The foil character works in the same way, to make the protagonist seem more incredible, or adversely, to make his or her faults more obvious. With the episode with Felix, it made Adrien look like a much more sympathetic and admirable character. What Felix did to him was horrible, but the fact that he forgave him amplifies that compassionate part of his personality. In the future, I think we can expect to see more of Felix fulfilling the position of the foil. It was clear in his debut episode that he likes Adrien, but he holds animosity towards Gabriel. Whether it's because of his unwillingness to give up the Graham de Vanily twin rings, or because of the way he treats his family members, is unclear. It's revealed in the episode that Adrien wasn't allowed to Felix's father's funeral, which is likely due to Gabriel's controlling tendencies. That may also be a reason for Felix's hatred of his uncle, which would also coincide well with Adrien's story. Gabriel is keeping the truth of Emily's disappearance for him, which may be a direct parallel to him preventing Adrien from attending his uncle's funeral and saying goodbye properly. This perhaps may be hinting at Adrien's future reactions and relationship with his father once he finds out the truth of his mother's fate. We already saw in Cat Blanc how he would have a very visceral reaction to learning the truth, even so far as allowing himself to become akumatized. Felix's reaction towards Gabriel may be a physical manifestation of how Adrien truly feels towards his father, but they are feelings that he would never act on. It's such a good way of giving us a glimpse at what a neglected child in Adrien's position could become had they succumbed to their trauma and allowed it to define them. I think as well, it's possible that Felix may play a major role in helping Adrien stick up for himself and tell Gabriel off. Felix is a lot more sure of himself and far less afraid than his cousin is. Adrien is a very family-oriented person because of how he was raised. While his friends such as Marinette and Nino have tried to help him in the past, the support of a family member who better understands the situation would be paramount in resolving the issue. I could even see Felix becoming the chosen for Bark, the Kwame of the dog Miraculous. If they really wanted to further Felix being Adrien's foil, making him a dog while Adrien is a cat would certainly be the way to go from a literary perspective. The Agrestes and Graham de Vanilys certainly are a complex family, and one that I hope to explore and analyze more as the show continues. So if in the future you'd like to see more videos like this from me, why not subscribe and hit that bell icon to get notifications from when I upload. Special thank you for my top tier patrons, Ambrose Rothwood, Brandon Nunes, The Lovely Ghosty, Lee Taylor, and Zachary Ansley. Because of people like them, I can continue to make content like this. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Have an amazing day, guys.